to go. You need to drink this water.
All right, let's do this, man. Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, man.
For,
Anytime.
Conversations. But how you doing, man? How's your quarantine been? How's family?
It's been good. Like it's definitely it's a new norm. I feel more comfortable at home than I do going outside at this point. It's a wonder that we're here on vacation now. But she wanted to really see her parents. The kids wanted to see their grandparents. So it's got to be safe, and cautionary without being scared and fearful. So that balance is, what we're working on.
That's good, man. It's good to hear. Any music coming out soon?
Yeah, I'm gonna drop another song. What the plan was this year was to drop drop a song like every 6 weeks or so, 6 to 8 weeks, depending on what's happening. So I want to drop a song in the next 2 weeks. I'm just deciding on which one to drop because I have like a bunch of songs that I haven't dropped, that are just pretty much sitting there. Run This Town was one of those.
Okay.
So we dropped it and it did well. So might as well drop more. People need music now, from what I understand.
Yeah. And you had a song that made it on Fortnite.
Yeah, man.
How was that?
That was a blessing. It's like, take some water here. It's like when we got the notification of that song being on Fortnite, it was maybe 4 weeks or 5 weeks before the launch. And prior to that, a lot of people don't know, but the song I released after Ruckus, which was called Get Up, was the first song on a Fortnite thing. It was on
oh wow,
the World Cup tour, yeah. So this is just another one. I was just like, okay, cool, we got another one on there. Mm-hmm. But I didn't realize that it was going to be part of the launch of the game, which is what changed everything.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, to watch what it did happen, and it was just crazy. It was humbling, but the best word is it was crazy. A lot of things happened in a short period of time.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I'm getting interview requests from people I never thought I would, not doing this at least. Maybe when we were doing Rhema Soul, the things I had wished for was now happening.
Yeah.
So God's funny like that.
Yeah. And then you had one with, I think, Adidas or something?
Yeah. I had a few. I had one with Adidas and, just been a few. The second one I had that was pretty big was the one, I think it was Ain't Gonna Stop Me, and that was for, I'm sounding real stupid right now. That's the most famous soccer player in the world other than Messi. I always mess up his name and say Ronaldo.
Cristiano Ronaldo?
There you go. The commercial with him was for Jeep. It was for the Jeep and Juventus or whatever. So that one did well.
Yeah, the team he plays for.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But by the time the Fortnite thing happened, this is gonna sound weird, but it was, it was kind of like I was doing that already. I was already in the industry in the way that I do music and why I do it, and the lane that fits what I've been doing lately. I was already doing it, so this was just another one. I was just like, oh, cool, because prior to that I had, the Ballers intro to that. I had Hobbs Shaw. So many movies, I don't remember all of them, but it was a good run, and it all happened very quickly after I released a song called Money and Power. So
that's cool, man. It's just cool to see how God's been using you, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man.
It's
been fun. It's definitely out of the box of what, because Rhema Soul, you're out, you're in front of people, you're doing your thing. Yeah. But that season had kind of ended in the fact that, kids was getting a little older. We didn't want to be on the road as much.
Yeah.
And I can't say I planned this to happen, but I'm glad I did. And now we just do it differently. You know, it doesn't require me having to travel all around and do
Yeah.
shows. And I know fans like that stuff, but
Yeah.
but as an artist, that gets old. After 4 years of doing it, I was just like, you know, now I just want to pick the shows I do. I don't want to have to do a show because I'm obligated.
Yeah.
You know,
I
so.
got you. Do you remember, speaking of Rhema Soul, do you remember one time, this was years ago when Al Force was the DYD, you guys performed at Fine Arts, and a dude tried to stage dive, and he, like, nobody caught him.
Yeah,
You
man.
guys made like you like narrate or something, or you posted it on YouTube.
Yeah, I put it on YouTube.
Like 3
and,
things to do to make sure you do when you stage dive or something like that.
Yes. Yeah, man, that was great.
It's
He got on
funny
stage.
because-
He was like, yeah. I didn't know what he was talking about, but I was like, all right, cool. You know, he just ran and jumped, and the whole crowd parted. He hit the monitor. He was fine though.
Like partially landed on one of the girls from our church.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, it was hilarious.
Oh my goodness.
She's like, I didn't think that was gonna happen. I was just trying to have fun, and then she's like, almost halfway on the ground. Her boyfriend's like, oh my god.
Did she get hurt at all?
She didn't. No, she didn't.
Okay.
I'm sure he did, but she didn't.
Yeah, man. But he jumped up. He was, you know, it's probably adrenaline, but he jumped up. He's, you know, celebrating.
Yeah, and they just took off. Now me, I gotta make sure people know I'm jumping, and someone's gonna catch me. You gotta make someone's gonna catch you, you know. But it's cool, man. It's cool seeing your music really go all around the world.
Thanks, man.
And really in different industries, like you got Fortnite, you got Jeep, you got, you know, Adidas, Ronaldo, all that stuff. And so it's kind of like, it's not just one avenue, but it's many avenues where people can hear your music and, you know, eventually, hopefully hear the gospel and hear Jesus in your music. But I do want to talk about that song Ruckus. What is the meaning of that song?
Oh man. I did an interview on Genius in New York about the song, and you know, the song is just basically about it kind of fits what we're talking about now, just the foundations of the things that we built, a lot of the things that run our country, our day-to-day lives, are just built on these false kind of motives, you know, like, and even the way that people function, you know. So the idea of the song is really just to cause a ruckus. If you're tired of the norms of whatever your life looks like, and norms don't necessarily have to always be a bad thing. You know, I always tell people, someone that is a doctor and their mom was a doctor and their dad was a doctor and their parents was a doctor, and you know, and it's just doctors in their family, it's normal for them to be a doctor. That's not an accomplishment. You know, that's just a normal part of life. You know, everybody was a doctor. So for them, they may be challenged with the idea of, you know, being something else, you know, being a musician, being a motivational speaker, being a pastor, whatever the case is. But because of their norms, they may never aspire to do it because they're so scared to just do something different and against the grain of what it is, you know, that society is telling them to do, what their family is telling them to do. So the idea of ruckus is just going against the grain of culture, and Jesus did it like no other. That's why I start off the song and say, I'm at the top of the globe. I got the torch. We about to burn down the thrones. You know, just burning down all of these things that, you know, even our country, you know, our country is built on a lot of stuff, you know, our history, what we're learning now, you know, there's a lot of lies in it. But even aside from that, even who the world tells you you're supposed to be, you know, that's a lie. The only person that can define us is God, is our creator. Yeah. You know, it's as simple as an analogy of anything. Anything that has a beginning and was built or created, in order for that thing to know the way that it functions, it has to ask the person that put it together. So if my toaster breaks and I have a toaster from, I don't know, GE or something, you know, the person that's going to give me the best synopsis that when something breaks with my toaster is going to be the person that created it, because they know what they made it for. They know the purpose they had envisioned when they put it together. And that's what people, you know, also do. But instead, it's like a toaster going to a microwave trying to figure out, you know, hey, can you figure out what's wrong with me? No,
Yeah.
they can't, you know. So, and that's what we do as people. We're broken and we go to the wrong sources to figure out, you know, how to fix this. And really it's Jesus. So there's a lot of things happening in that song. So people that sit and listen to it after that Genius video I put out, or Genius put out, I should say, really get a different feel for it. It's a very inspirational record, but at the same time, it's correcting a lot of stuff.
That's cool, man.
Thanks, man.
That's cool. And all those young people, you know, that play Fortnite, they were able to hear that, and I'm sure at first they were probably just like, yeah, you know, turn up, Fortnite just dropped or whatever, and you know, you really listen to it, maybe Google the lyrics or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, wow, this song has meaning.
And I had a lot of people go from, the beauty of it is when you're part of any sort of viral situation, because it literally went viral, people go back and they check, you know, they're going to listen to Ruckus, but then they're also going to go and see what else you're doing.
Yeah.
So not too long before that, maybe a couple years prior, I put out Established in 1997. So I had a lot of people hit me up like, man, that song is crazy, man. All your stuff is so good. I love the inspirational record. I can play this with my kids in the car. So it goes so like, there's so many stories. I have so many DMs of, you know, people's lives being affected.
That's cool.
Because I don't like to say changed, because I think Jesus is the only one that truly changes a life, but I'm part of the process in affecting that. And so that's been dope. You know, you never know what's gonna happen. And not to talk too much, but I did the first song I did was Money and Power, and I did the song for the Super Bowl. Really? But it didn't get picked up for the Super Bowl. It got picked up for this song called this movie called Final Score, and then Ballers and a whole bunch of other trailers. But the actual song Money and Power was all about spiritual warfare, you know? And it was the idea that, you know, money and power seems like the thing that is really controlling everything. But that's not it. You know, there's something else going on there. But when people listen to the song, all they think is, you know, money and power. Yeah. So I like that idea of being able to bring people in or pull them in on a concept and have them listen like, oh, snap. He's talking about way more than just, you know, this.
Yeah.
You know? So,
that's cool.
Yeah, man.
Now, with that word ruckus, how can we, you know, cause a ruckus or like impact the culture, really with what we have and with the opportunities we're given? How can we impact culture to our best abilities or to the best of our abilities?
Yeah, you know, I think just a lot of ways, you know, like even something as simple as a conversation now is going a long way. You know, the climate of our country right now with the racial injustice and COVID, it's like two things. One thing, which was COVID, was joining us together as a world. I've never seen so many commercials about, you know, us being together and we're all in this together. And then boom, you know, the Aubrey thing happened, George Floyd happened, and now we're back to the real stuff. Like, this is how we really are. This is how it really is. And, you know, from Louis Giglio to CCM to Christian hip hop to just CNN, Fox News, whatever, even corporations, everyone has realized now, for the most part, that there was an untold story in America that wasn't really happening. And now I think we're just at a place where we can actually have those conversations, because God is concerned about that stuff. You know, He is concerned about equality. He's concerned about us all being able to bask in the things and the abundant life that He gives us. But at the same time, you know, he's more worried about our soul. You know, we get to heaven, we'll have new bodies. I mean, none of this skin color stuff is going to really have any sort of impact there. Yeah. But it is something that we deal with here. So going back to your question about how do we impact culture? I think we do it one conversation at a time, you know, and just allow, especially if you're a Christian, you have to be willing to die to yourself while having a conversation. You have to be willing to die to your own opinions, to some of your feelings, knowing that the wrong that you feel like the person is about to tell you about or justify doesn't always come from a place of maliciousness. Sometimes it's just pure ignorance. They had no idea. I mean, I spoke to people who had no idea. They thought, you know, this stuff was made up, you know, and then I told them about a story that, you know, happened to me, or I tell them about stories that happens to my friends. I'm telling them about my son asking me questions that their sons will never ask them. And then it brings it home to them, you know, like, oh, snap, this is real. You know, but I also want to hear their perspective as well. You know, why didn't they think it was real? You know, and they have great reasons, or why they believed that, you know, they were superior in a sense.
Yeah.
How they believed it and didn't even know they believed it. Like, that's a lot of the conversation. I didn't even know that was what even Black people, I was like, even Black people have this thing in them as well. So it's all around. It's a people problem. And it's based on, you know, lies. You know, devil knows what he's doing. You know,
devil is a liar.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what has been your experiences with, you know, injustice, with racism? Can you talk about maybe an experience or two?
The most recent one is just, I was watching Belief and Fatherhood on YouTube. For those of you that don't know, he has a whole YouTube series on being a father. It shows his family. He used to be a Christian rap artist in the group called The Breaks. And I was watching it, and it was about him and his wife having a conversation with their son about, you know, racism. And I watched it with, you know, just, there were some things that you know, I would do differently than him as far as how he spoke to his son. Mm-hmm. And I watched it like, man, they're having that conversation too early. That kid is only like, you know, 8 years old or something like that. That's just too early for him to be confronted with such an ugly truth. But as soon as I said that, by the weekend, my son would ask me, Daddy, when I get older, he's 6 years old. Daddy, when I get older, are police gonna kill me? This was his question to me. Wow. So, you know, that kind of question comes from a 6-year-old boy. And we try to protect them from these things. We try to protect them from the images they see, but he was at his grandmother's house and she must have got caught up and was watching it, not realizing they're paying attention. And, you know, he comes home with that question. And here I am, I was just judging Belief, like, man, that's too early, dude. Like, here I am having a conversation with my 6-year-old. Wow. And of course, you know, my job as a parent is to raise him into a young man. But more importantly than that, raise him into a young man after God's own heart, more than anything else. And I have to make sure that these things don't get in the way of that there's no hatred and bitterness in his heart. So, trying to go against, not necessarily go against, because I had to tell him the reality of what it is to be Black in America, but at the same time, let him know that he doesn't have to be scared of police officers. Or I don't want him to be, I should say, to be scared of police officers, to be scared of white people, to be scared of other cultures, because, you know, his mom is Puerto Rican, I'm Black, our friends are all nations. So that's the example that he needs to flow from. But even if he is wronged, the only thing he's responsible for is his response to that. And that response can do everything. You know, how you respond to a harsh word, the Bible talks about, you know, the gentleness in a response can change everything. And I've seen it. So, you know, just really honing in on that stuff, you know, self-control, you know, making sure that he knows there's nothing wrong. There's actually beauty in the difference between, you know, someone being a different color, someone being a different culture, because you get to learn from them. You get to get a different perspective. So we just had to tell him, you know, there's just bad people or people that make bad decisions in all walks of life, from judges to police officers to doctors, you know, and go from there. So that was definitely the most poignant thing that came out of this. And I'm saying it very casually now. It was very heart-wrenching, a lot of tears, holding back, because I didn't want him to see me like so flustered by it. But at the same time, I think the raw emotions that are happening are also necessary for the conversation to come across the right way. So
that's good. That's powerful.
yeah, man.
How can we, or how can I, because I don't have black skin, and you know, we can argue of if Dominicans are black, which I think we are, but you know, with what's going on, it's people with black skin, because you know, I can go out and they're not gonna see me as black, so they might not treat me like they would a black person. So how can we, as you know, non-black people, or you know, without black skin, how can we be effective in you know, trying to get rid of racism, trying to put racism to death? Because we may not have experienced it. There's a lot of people that have never experienced racism.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that, like you said, they didn't know it was really happening. They didn't know it was for real. They thought it was just so how can I, or how can somebody that's not your color be effective in trying to get rid of racism? How do you think?
It's a great question. And the beauty in that question is that it takes us all. So it's not just because at the end of the day, it's not a black problem. It's a people problem.
Yeah.
And I love how, you know, Jesus, you know, that illustration about the Samaritan, the Good Samaritan, and, you know, who's your neighbor, and just the idea that it doesn't really matter who's being wronged. As Christians, once you see it, you're kind of accountable for it. So it's kind of an integrity thing. So it's the same way, like if I see someone, well, I'll put it this way. A couple years ago, immigration was a big deal, and it still is. There are people in, you know, families in cages, you know, on the border. They're waiting to enter the country. They're living in crazy conditions. And a couple of years ago, Juan, who's Colombian, you know, he's a fair-skinned Colombian, so he could pass for being white any day. But he was so passionate, going in on everything, Twitter, the president, you know, and we won't go there, but he was just so passionate about it. And I wasn't as passionate, you know. I didn't take on that cause like I'm taking on this one. But in the midst of this, he was just as passionate about this one. So as a result, I had to write him a text message and let him know that I was sorry, that I didn't take on the things that were concerning to him, the things that were happening to what he felt like was his people. And I also forgot that my parents are Jamaicans. Like, they came here. My dad still doesn't have his citizenship. And I lost track of all that because the people that were being shown on television weren't black people. But we all get affected by this stuff. So I say all that to say, we need other races. That's the beauty about what's happening right now. It's the fact that other races are actually stepping up and acknowledging, because we all have some of it in us. I mean, there's so many subliminal messages that we're taught, whether they're directly or indirectly, by the things we watch, by the things we take in. Social media gives us all kinds of stories. So with all that being said, we constantly have to fight against these ideas of who people are based on the way that they look, based on the way that they dress, based on all this kind of stuff. But to go back to your question, is I just think that if you are not black, the best thing you can do at this point is to be willing to have the conversations, you know, be willing to even advocate, especially if you have friends that are black. You should be willing to advocate for them, because now, in going back to the Juan thing, if immigration becomes, and it still is something that's happening, you know, But if it goes to the point where it was before, I have to be willing to stand for him. Just like he was willing to go protest for me, I'm going to go protest for him. Why? Because I love him. Because I have love for him that supersedes our, races and cultures, and something that is hurting my brother is hurting me.
Yeah.
But that's a Christian concept. To tell the world that it's just a different, conversation. For them, I would say the way that you help is you teach your children.
Yeah.
Your children have to, because we are already in this, but the children, the next generation are the ones that can really change it. They're the ones that can really erase, the colorism and, the placism and all the isms that come with the separation of people or humans.
Yeah.
So I think that's it. I think just giving people a place to really talk, have the conversations that need to be had, and be willing to have them very honestly, because everyone has a perspective for a reason, whether they think black people are doing this or whether black people always talk about white people are going to do this to you. These are not just made up. These were taught.
Yeah.
So guarding that kind of stuff and making sure you teach your children. Like I have a friend, he's white, Kevin Hockenberry, and he asked me that question as a white pastor, how do I address this? And I said, the most important thing you can do is tell your son to advocate for his black friends. The same way I would tell my son, to advocate for his friends of all races and colors if there's something that's being done that's wrong.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that answers the question. It's a very,
sure,
it's very complicated, but I definitely think it's more conversations and more love. As cheesy as that sounds.
That's great, man.
Man.
One last thing before we go. How do we? A lot of people, they think, oh, I they want to do stuff, but they don't have enough time, or they don't really. What happens is they don't make enough time. But you, as a as a family man, you're a father, you're a husband, you're also an artist. How do you balance that? How do you put time and effort and thought and creativity into music, also being a father, raising your kids, and being intentional at home, being intentional with your wife?
I mean, really, it's about time. It's about time management, and just resource management. I only have so much energy, right, throughout the day. But what I've learned is if I go to my 9 to 5 and I give them the best part of Konata, and then I come home and my kids see me and I'm like, oh man, what's up? But when I get to work, hey, how's everybody doing? Hey, how you doing? That's not fair. That's not fair to them. That's not fair to either side. Because we have this tendency around the people we love, we just let our hair down. Like, oh, I don't gotta act up. I don't gotta, but they should be getting the best of us. So when it comes to the balance and the time, we just, the beauty of it is my wife, she's a part of everything I do, right? She was an artist. She manages what I do. She's a manager for Garvey. She manages an Instagram influencer, and she manages a whole bunch of other things. We have a business together outside of my 9 to 5, which is our studio and our licensing stuff, which we were just talking about. So all these things kind of work together. And for me, it's a blessing because we can concentrate on, my business stuff, my music stuff, take an hour out of the day. Hey, let's talk about this week, what we're going to do this week. And then we're done. And then we're concentrating on the family and making sure that those things don't get sacrificed, because what really happens is you just have to prioritize what's important. Well, right now, being with the family is very important. This is a very strange time. There's a lot of anxiety. I have to make sure they feel comfortable, make sure they feel loved, make sure they feel protected, safe. So all that's going to come with time. So right now, music is in the background, but it's still a priority. It's just not at the top. And then you just shift, based on the seasons of life. But all those things come with conversations, constant conversations with my kids. How you guys feeling? Do you feel like daddy spent enough time with you? You feel like mommy spent enough time with you? You guys want to do a separate day where daddy goes out with Zion, have daddy Sunday, and then daddy daughter day? So just being real intentional, having them be able to give us some feedback, because sometimes we don't even ask our kids how they're doing. We just figure they're doing good because we bought them a piece of ice cream, or we took them to the movies or whatever. So we have those conversations at every season of life. We do a lot of praying together, and that kind of helps balance it out. Are we perfect at it? Absolutely not. But I think we find good rhythms based on the season, and the way that we find that good rhythm is by, just communication and prayer.
That's great.
Yeah, man.
That's good. I'm gonna have to take note of that for when I get married. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man. Do it.
But man, I appreciate you, man, just sitting down with me, having some conversation, opening up, speaking
Yeah,
wisdom.
thanks for having me.
I really appreciate it. Looking forward to this song you're about to drop. Looking forward.
I'm deciding which one I'm gonna drop. Otherwise, I would tell you the name of it. But I say the name and then it's something else, and you're like, oh.
And I'm looking forward to some what's it called? Some more Freestyle Fridays.
Yeah, I had to stop that because it didn't make sense. No one was driving home from work, because that was like a drive home from work, you know. And I would rap about the week, whatever it had in it, or rap about the weekend. But all these days are pretty much the same right now. So I'm gonna do a candy bars thing where I do the YouTube and get everybody on.
I see that.
That's probably more what I'll do until things pick back up. Because I love doing the Freestyle Friday. It's good. It keeps me sharp. I write those things in 30 minutes or so. Just do it.
Cool, man. Man, I appreciate it. I hope you enjoy the rest of your vacation with the fam. Tell the fam I said what's up.
Will do. I'm hating that beard of yours, man. Hating that thing. I cannot grow this beard to save my life.
Everyone's got grace in a different way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
exactly. A different way.
Yeah, man. I like it. I like it, though.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, bro.
You take care, bro.
All right, man. Thanks for having me. Have a good one.
Sure, man. Thank you for coming.
All right, yo.